Good morning. I've been doing this. I'm just kidding. I won't take you all back through that. It has been a really interesting couple of years now studying this material. As you probably already know, this material changes more than just about anything else. As a matter of fact, I told my wife this morning, I said, I sat down this week in my office and went back through all my information, and about, I would say 20% of it I had to just throw out and replace because things have changed. And that's what happens with technology. When you're dealing with technology, there's new, there's improved, sometimes there's broken, and we have to fix it. But hopefully, we can at least try to use it in a positive sense. That's sort of the plan. In doing this, I was asked to do this. I'll give you a little bit of background. 2 years ago, we decided to do something at Madison Academy, try to do something a little bit different, a little bit new. And so what we did is we called it a lunch and learn. And we invited parents to come on their lunch break to the school. And we hosted a little session, a little mini session with them on a particular topic. The first one we did, I was asked to do because we had some issues at the school with social media, with cyberbullying, with some different things being posted, inappropriate things being posted by some of our students that were seen by others, and these students got in trouble. And so you had some issues, and so they asked me if I would sort of study up on it and present this first lunch and learn. We had 43 parents show up on their lunch break. Couldn't believe it. Didn't have enough room in the room where we wanted to host it. We were expecting 10 to 15, and we had 43 show up. And so I looked at the guy that had asked me to speak on this, and I said, I would suggest that we probably need to do this again. And he agreed, and so we did it a second time. And we had another big group of parents show up. Lonnie Jones spoke at that particular one about some more technology issues and things that are on the internet and ways to protect your kids. And we had about 50 parents show up to that one. And so this has been sort of a topic that apparently a lot of folks are interested in. Now, you ask yourself why. Well, the reason why is because whether you like it or whether you don't, it really doesn't matter. It doesn't impact the fact that everybody's using it. Now, you could mean that about technology, and in a weird sort of way, you can mean that about social media. And here's what I mean. I don't care if you think that you are too old to hear about social media. I don't use it. I've never seen it before. Trust me when I tell you that your kids and your grandkids, your nieces, your nephews, the kids that you may keep for other friends of yours, they are on it all the time. All the time. And I would venture to guess that you know of somebody in your family who probably has a stiff neck from time to time because all they do is stare at a screen. Now here's what we're finding more and more, and this is scary. You can go online and you can read this for yourself. You can look this up pretty much anywhere, and you can find this information. Focus Press did this study not too long ago. Focus Press is a Christian-based organization, and Focus Press found some really scary details. They found that usually, unfortunately, sadly, that by the time children are 9 years old, they have viewed pornography in some sort of way. 9 years old. My child's 8. You want to know why I'm worried about this stuff? You want to know why I study this stuff all the time? My child's 8. All the statistics say that by the time she is 9, she will have seen something she has no business seeing. We found that 90% of all Americans 21 and younger are on social media for at least 1 hour a day. 90%. 9 out of every 10 that are 21 and younger are on social media at least for 1 hour every single day. That adds up. That adds up. So people ask me, they say, well, why do you think this is such an important thing to discuss? Well, I don't know how it couldn't be important. But I want you to make sure and understand this right before we get started today, because we're going to cover several things today. We're going to be sort of general this morning and in the worship hour, and then this afternoon we'll get really specific with applications that go on the phone. We'll talk specifically about some that you need to be really, really scared about. And then if your kid or grandkid has them on their phone, it should be a sit-down conversation immediately. We'll talk about that this afternoon. But this morning, here's what you need to know. I need you to understand that social media and technology are not evil. They're not evil. That's the way that's where a lot of parents and grandparents have landed over the course of the last, I would say, 5 years. I have heard more and more people every time I go somewhere and deliver these series of lessons, this seminar. I'll have parents or grandparents come up to me before I ever get up and say anything. Okay, this is what I love. You going to get up here and tell us about social media? Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. You going to talk about how evil it is? No, ma'am. No, sir. You can almost read their mind. Well, then what did we bring you out here for? You're supposed to tell everybody to quit using it and get off of it, never see it again. No, that's it's not possible, first of all. Second of all, it's not needed. Social media and technology are just like a lot of things. When understood and used appropriately, they can be extremely powerful tools. They can be. But when used inappropriately and incorrectly, they can be tools of evil. I mean, that's anything, right? So this morning, what I want to do, and this afternoon included, is show you some of the issues, some of the things you might need to think about, some of the things you might need to go back and sort of re-examine. But I also want you to understand, this is not evil. This is not evil. This morning, here's what I want to do. I want to talk you through 9 things. Okay, I know. I don't have a lot of time to talk about each one. I got it. Okay? But these are things to consider when you're using social media. So I call this sort of the 9 ugly truths about social media. Now, let me first and foremost say that many of you don't know me, and that's all right. You probably know people that are connected to me. That's what I'm finding through the people that I meet. That my father-in-law is the preacher down at Union, Tom Larkin. I married his middle daughter, Rachel, 14 years ago. Thank you. I remembered, okay? All you ladies that were like, oh, let's see. Asked him how many years he's been married. I remembered. 14 years we've been married, 8-year-old, 5-year-old. Okay, so I lived in Hartselle for a couple of years. Rachel and I did when we first moved back from Freed-Hardeman. So I've been in this community. I know this community pretty well. And so I need you to know this. You don't know me all that well, but you need to know something about me. I would never intentionally hurt your feelings. Never. Never intentionally hurt your feelings. So if something that is said this morning hurts your feelings, it is not intentional. But you also need to know this. I will step on your toes. And I won't apologize. Because I need mine stepped on every now and again, and I am certain that you are probably in the same boat as I am. So if something in this steps on your toes, I'm not sorry. Okay, so can we have that agreement amongst ourselves? We're all good on that? I will never intentionally hurt your feelings, but I will absolutely step on your toes. All right, awesome. Okay, number 1, just because you have a voice doesn't mean everybody needs to hear it all the time. I love you enough to tell you that. Just because you have a voice, just because you have the ability to get on social media and type something and hit enter or send, doesn't mean that everybody needs to hear it. I don't know if you have these people in your life, but there are certain people, they shall remain nameless, who will post about everything. They will show you a picture of what they had for breakfast this morning. They will take a picture of the sunrise this morning, and they will say, God is great. Well, yeah, I got it. I love you. But 365 days in a row of the same picture. Come on now. Change it up. Just something. Take a picture of the road every now and again. I don't know. Something else. A cow out in the yard. I don't know. You have those people that, honest to goodness, they have a voice and they expect you to be willing to hear it all the time. Now, I ran into this when dealing with teenagers. I taught for 11 years. 1 year I was in the Morgan County system, actually, at Lacey Spring as an aide, and then 10 years at Madison Academy. And I taught everything at Madison Academy you could possibly teach under the social studies umbrella. So I taught sociology, psychology, pre-law, history in the Bible, every United States history there was, every world history there was. I taught them all. Okay? And in dealing with teenagers, here's what I found more than anything else. Every single one of them, whether they want to admit it or not, want to be heard. They want to be heard. Now, if that means that they want to be heard in a sense that they want to be able to express themselves without talking, they still want to be heard. They want to be acknowledged. They want to be seen. They want to be noticed. But there are some kids that take that to an extreme. On a scale of 0 to 10, they're about a 27. And they will go above and beyond to be noticed. And what you find a lot of times is those kids are so eager to be noticed that they get ignored. And the reason why I say that is this. They post, they tweet, they text, and it's so much information, and it's a constant voice that people just quit listening. I don't want us to be that way. If we're going to change the mentality about technology and social media, then it has to be something that is worth listening to. And so if I am simply volume over value when it comes to my social media and technology use, then I am in the wrong lane. From a quantity standpoint, most teenagers post approximately 20 to 25 times a day. Something. Now, whether that be Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, well, they're not on Facebook anymore. They leave Facebook to us old people. Okay? That's literally what a teenager told me not too long ago, because I was making this exact speech and they went, hang on, we don't use Facebook. I said, what do you mean you don't use Facebook? Every teenager uses Facebook. Nope. I said, why not? Because my grandma's on it. It's like, oh, okay. I understand now. Okay, but whatever they use, Snapchat, Twitter, Instagram, those are kind of the big three now. Facebook sort of got pushed out of the way by Snapchat. And there's others we'll talk about this afternoon. They'll post 20 to 25 times a day. Now, here's what you need to know. The most often used post is a selfie. Now, what does it tell you about the kid? What do we just say about kids? They want to be heard. They want to be noticed. They want to be acknowledged. 20 to 25 posts a day. Approximately 60% of those are selfies in some fashion, shape, form, whatever. 65% of everything that's posted online, this is not teenagers, this is all of us. 65% of what is posted online is about us. Maybe it's not just the teenagers that want to be heard, acknowledged, noticed, etc. Just because you have a voice doesn't necessarily mean we need to hear it all the time. Maybe it's not just your posts, maybe it's your pictures, maybe it's your selfies, but keep that in mind. Number 2, just because someone is acting like an idiot doesn't give you the right to treat them like one. I know, you probably had parents like mine who were like, hey, listen, he's an idiot, call him an idiot. That's not exactly the best way to go about things. I will tell you, I've run into this headlong in the church over the course of the last 6 months to a year. And it has been ugly. There have been some gentlemen, and I use that term very loosely, there have been some men, I'll just say it that way, who have decided to make it their personal job to attack and destroy anyone they feel is not necessarily up to par with what they believe a preacher ought to be. Now, they have done so not face-to-face. They haven't done so in a church building. They haven't done so in a seminar like this one. They haven't done so at a lectureship or a preacher training session or anything like that. No, they've done it on Facebook. So what happens is post after post after post after post after post is attacking good gospel preachers. And here's what others have tried to get these men to see, and they just don't want to hear it, is while you may be intending that for that person's eyes, it is being seen by hundreds of people, thousands of people. Because if you're friends with me on Facebook and I get tagged in something, guess what? It's going to show up on your news feed because you're friends with me. Well, they're tagging 8, 10, 12 people at a time. You can only imagine how many thousands of people are viewing these posts. And my stance on this is, even if the people that they are attacking are acting like idiots, is that the way to handle it? No. Now, I will give some of these gentlemen that are being tagged, I will give them some props because they have not replied. They just calmly go in and untag themselves from the post and go about their day. I don't know if I could be that patient and calm. I hope I could be. So this one is aimed really at me, not necessarily at you, but this one's aimed directly at me. Just because somebody is acting foolishly, ignorantly, doesn't give us the right to then go in and respond in kind. Yes, ma'am. I have always said private messaging it's the reason why Facebook set up a whole different app called Messenger, is so that you could have a private message between you and that person. And some of these gentlemen have tried to do that. Now, here's what's scary. Some of these men that have been tagged have messaged these attackers, if you will, privately, and these attackers will screenshot their conversation and put it on Facebook. So at that point, you have to be almost like Jesus told the apostles to be. If you go to a city and you preach to them the gospel and they don't want to hear it, dust your shoes off and go to the next city. There comes a time where you have to wash your hands of the whole situation and say, I can't destroy myself in trying to get these people to understand something they're not going to understand. I have seen 3 different responses. One is a private message response, which again gets blasted back on the social media page. I've seen people just ignore them. And for the most part, after 4, 5, 6 messages, they'll kind of drop off and go after somebody else. Third way is I've seen people take them head on. And usually in a very appropriately nice way, but unfortunately there's no ground being made in that conversation. So ultimately what they end up having to do is just say, well, that's all I can say about that. I'm going to move on to something else. And so unfortunately, somebody's acting ignorantly. Those are my options. I can attempt to handle it privately, which is what I think the Lord tells us to do. If we got a problem with a brother, certainly if they're a brother in Christ, you should be able to call that person on the phone or say, hey, listen, you want to meet for lunch? We need to talk about something. There's an issue. You ought to be able to do that. Guy in Woods said one time that there is no problem that 2 Christians who will act like Christians can't solve. Now, you understand what the big caveat there is, right? Who will act like Christians. Okay? Now, I absolutely agree with that, okay? Which is why I use the term idiot. Because that term insinuates somebody who's not willing to listen. Someone who's already turned you off before you ever say a word to them. So the way we respond perhaps is just simply to ignore them and let their comments die on the vine, so to speak. But I also think if you do respond, I think about Colossians chapter 3, right? Paul says, verse 12, put on then as God's chosen ones, holy and beloved, compassionate hearts, kindness, humility, meekness, and patience, bearing with one another. And if one has a complaint against another, forgiving each other. As the Lord has forgiven you, so you must also forgive. And then he says, verse 14, above all these things, put on love. You've heard it a long time, right? Speak the truth in love, right? So if I'm dealing with someone who might be acting ignorantly, kill them with kindness. Yeah, that was that was my mom used to say that. Kids would pick on you at school. Well, just kill them with kindness, honey. I was like, no, I don't think I can do that, Mom. But you know what? Sadly, it worked. I had to give credit to my mom. A lot of times they would just either leave you alone or they'd be nice to you. So just because somebody's acting that way doesn't give me the right to then try to bury them or attack them. It doesn't give me that right. It's not the way the Lord told us to handle these kind of problems. Okay, number 3. I love you. I really do. But man, there's some people that they will retweet something or share something without even looking. Boy, I like that title, so click share. And then I'm like, why? It was a sweet, sweet old lady. I walked into church one Sunday and I said, and I'll call Sister Jones. Sister Jones, come, I need to ask you something. Yes, honey, what is it? I said, did you share something on Facebook last night? Well, yes, I loved it. It was such a great speech. I said, well, Sister Jones, did you even read the website that it came from? Well, no. How do you do that? And so I pulled up on my phone, and it had 4 of the most vile cuss words I have ever seen or heard in my entire life in the web address. And Sister Jones had just clicked share, and so all her friends, and they were probably just shocked. She said, well, I wondered why so many people were texting me last night. I said, that's why. She said, well, so-and-so came up to me this morning and said, I can't believe you'd share that. And I thought, well, they just must have been blown away by how good it was. No, ma'am, that's not why they said it. Hey, people fail to realize that when you click share, you're sharing with everybody that's in your friend list, okay? Or if it's on Twitter, you're retweeting something that everybody on your list sees. Well, guess what? Everybody that's on their list on Facebook, they see what they share too. So sometimes we got to be reminded that when you share something, bless his heart, Morgan Freeman died about 12 times a couple of years ago. Every time I got on Facebook, Morgan Freeman, dead at the age of 61. Oh man, that's horrible to see. And I go, wait a minute, that's not even from a real news site. The next day, Morgan Freeman, dead at the age of 72. I'm like, wait a minute. Yesterday he was 61, and now I don't understand. 11 years in one day, that's kind of weird. So, well, this one's not even, Over the course of 3 months, the man died 12 times. He even had to come out and say, "Hi, Morgan Freeman, not dead. Perfectly alive. Don't worry about me." Quit clicking on that stuff and sharing it. But good people were just, so sorry he's gone. R.I.P. Morgan Freeman. I'm like, hey, check something every now and again. Wouldn't be a bad idea to go, hey, maybe this isn't real. There's a place called Snopes.com. If you're not familiar with it, get familiar with it. If you see a news story that you think might sound a little bit go to Snopes.com and type in the name of the news story. It'll tell you that quick if it's real or not. Yes, ma'am. You don't like them? Which one? What have they gone after? Oh, well, politically, yeah. There's several things that I would not necessarily agree with them on, but they're good for like major news stories. If you're talking like, especially celebrity news stories, they'll drive that right out pretty quick. We have a dearth of what I would call fake news sites now. Even some that are satirical, that are not intended to be believed, like The Onion is one, for instance. We have our own in Alabama. I don't know if you know this. We have our very own called The Ostrich. It's written by a comedian. I mean, it's not even intended at all to be real news, and yet people will share it that quick. Hey, look at what happened today, and it's obvious that it's written by somebody who is trying to be funny, and yet people will share it and they will retweet it and say, "Look, this is in the news today." It's why Donald Trump has his own little deal about fake news. It's because every day something else comes out and you go, "Wait a minute, is that real?" Because we have this whole division now of fake news and real news, and that's just scary to think about. So I always tell people, before you click retweet or before you click share, check it out. Because you may not do it, I certainly wouldn't think you would do it maliciously, but inadvertently you may share something that's very harmful. And you may think, "Well, I can't believe this would happen. I need to share this with everybody." Whoa, wait a minute. Make sure it's factual before you start sharing. That's kind of a scary concept. I don't know, checking yourself before you share it. I mean, I know that's scary and not a lot of people want to do it. But number 4, some people are addicted to drama. Don't be. Oh, my goodness. Hopefully you don't have any drama monsters in your life, but there are some serious drama monsters when you get on social media. And here's what I mean by that. Rather than understand that something that is said or something that is posted may have been written in the heat of the moment, it may have been written under frustration, it may have been written under anger, they immediately say, "Oh, great, now I got something else to talk about. I got something else to gossip about. I got something else to tell everybody at the supper table tonight. A screenshot so I can save that and I can look at it later." People are just addicted to drama. Some people get on there and they will write something on purpose so that they will get angry responses. Now, I don't know about you. I don't have time for that. I don't have time for that. I have a full-time job. I have 2 kids. I have a loving wife. I don't have time to get on Facebook and go, let's see who I can make mad today. I don't. But some people do. And here's what they're wanting you to do. They're wanting you to look at that and go, "Ooh, I'm going to put them in their place." They love that. They love that. They love getting on there and seeing that they've got 51 comments. It was never at its worst than on the election of 2016. I have never been, I'm going to be real honest with you. I've never been more embarrassed of some of my good Christian brothers and sisters than during the election of 2016. Embarrassed. And I told them that privately. I certainly was not going to respond on social media. I told them that privately. I said, how is that making anything any better? You're mad because this happened, or you're mad because that didn't happen. Either way, you getting on social media and telling people how evil this person is or how horrible that is, is that helping? Is that helping? If it is, then great, go right ahead. I mean, absolutely, turn it loose. If you believe that is helping galvanize this country, if you believe that is helping galvanize the Lord's church, then by all means, fire away. If it's not, then be quiet. Be quiet. What was it that Thumper said that his mama told him? You remember in Bambi? Remember the little rabbit? What did he say? "My mama says, if you can't say something nice, then don't say anything at all." And there's some good Christian people sitting in Church of Christ buildings right now that need to Go back and go, hey, that's a good idea. Because, boy, it would really calm a lot of stuff down. Drama. There is no reason for it. Just no reason. And there's certainly no reason to be addicted to it. We've seen people that are. They just constantly have to keep something stirred up. And there's just no reason to be. Number 5. Your feelings can be so very wrong. God gave you emotions as information, not as instruction. Think about that. Let that sink in. God gave you emotions as information, not instruction. My emotions cannot lead me through life. Do you realize how much trouble we'd all be in if we simply let our emotions rule? Can you imagine? Watching a video the other night. I don't know if you guys, this is not intended to start some sort of disagreement. I don't know if you're Alabama fans, Auburn fans, I don't know. I know that in the South you will get in a fist fight with a brother in Christ over if you're an Alabama fan or an Auburn fan, which is scary and sad all at the same time. But I will say this, okay, Alabama won the national championship, okay, and they won on a big-time play, right? The last play of the game is a 2nd and 26. And the kid for Alabama throws a pass, kid catches a touchdown. Ball game over. Georgia gets no more plays. It's over. Okay, I watched the video the other day. There's a kid watching the game. He's got a Georgia hat on, okay? Georgia t-shirt, wearing black shorts with a Georgia logo on them. Okay, the guy's videoing him. Pass goes in the air, and he jumps from his chair and screams, "No!" Kid catches it for Alabama, touchdown. He takes his remote and crow hops and throws his remote into his television and shatters a 72-inch 4K television. It's about a $5,000 television. The funny thing about the video wasn't that, because for me, as a father, as a working adult, I was seeing money just fall all over all over the screen. I just saw dollar bills fall out of that thing as he shattered the screen. The funny thing about the video for me was after it. That remote control hits it, the screen shatters. I mean, immediately everything goes dark, smoke's coming out the front of the screen. And as the remote is falling to the ground, he goes, "No!" I mean, the exact same response that he had when the touchdown was scored. And his buddy is just dying laughing, videoing. I mean, just hee-haw laughing. Can you imagine what our lives would be like if we let our emotions rule everything? How frightening that would be. I'm reminded of 1 Kings chapter 19, when Elijah has just had this awesome moment. I mean, this incredible mountaintop moment, literally, with the prophets of Baal, where he's defeated them in chapter 18 of 1 Kings. 1 Kings 19, Jezebel receives word. Ahab comes home kind of with his tail between his legs. He's been whipped by Elijah and embarrassed in front of everybody. And he comes home and tells Jezebel, "That mean man's picking on me." And Jezebel sends word to Elijah, and she says, "So do to me what was done to those men, if I don't make you like one of them by tomorrow." And that's the message she sends to Elijah. In other words, if by tomorrow I don't have you dead like them, I hope they put me to death. You know what Elijah does? I mean, if I'm Elijah, I just defeated 450 prophets of Baal. I mean, I am walking on clouds at this point. You know what Elijah does? Takes off running. Because of her words, he's scared to death. His emotions got the best of him. It gets worse. Remember, he's sitting in the cave, and God says, "What are you doing here?" And Elijah says, "I'm the only one left. That's all. Everybody else is dead. Everybody's gone. It's just me. Poor, pitiful me." God says, "Get up." Leads him to the front of the cave. You know the story. All these things come by, and Elijah says he's not in that, he's not in this, he's not in that. Finally, he's in that still small voice, and God says, "There's 7,000 in the city alone who haven't bowed their knee to Baal. Stop feeling sorry for yourself." And he finishes that story by giving him sort of a hierarchy. These people, this person's in charge, and if they come after you, they'll have to get through him. If they somehow get through him, then there's this person who's in charge. And if they want to get to you, they got to go through him. And if they somehow even get through that person, there's this person in charge. And then they'd have to get through him to get to you. And if they... So Elijah, just stop. Stop letting your emotions get the best of you. Now let me hurry through the rest of these because I'm about out of time. Number 6, is it really all about you? 65% of everything that's posted, 65% of everything that's posted on social media is about us. So my question is it really all about us? Or is there not ways that we could be using social media and technology to promote other things? Things that are worthy to be promoted. For instance, the work of the church. Good things that are happening in your church. Needs that you see need to be met in the church. Wouldn't that be a much better use of our time? Wouldn't that be a much better use of our post? If we're going to post, teenagers, if they're going to post 20 to 25 times a day, adults, it's about 10 to 15. If we're going to post 10 times a day, wouldn't it be nice if 9 of those posts were about something leading people to Christ? Rather than us? Seems to me like that would work a little bit better. Number 7, just because you read something doesn't mean it's true. We've sort of already hit on that. You got to be really careful. You got to be really careful. Be willing to do the research. I say that to my kids when I taught all those 10 years. Don't be afraid of research. Be willing to do the research. Be willing to go search it out. Be willing to spend 15 extra minutes to make sure that what you're putting in your paper that you're turning into me is not somebody else's work. Do the research. Do the work. And just because you read something doesn't mean it's true. Even if it's shared by your best friend, even if it's shared by your spouse, even if it's put on social media by your spouse, doesn't necessarily mean it's true. Do the research. You've heard it from day one since you became a Christian. Don't believe because I tell you to believe or because any preacher tells you to believe. Believe it because you've done the reading and the research yourself and you know it to be true. Then it's your faith. It's not my faith that you're borrowing. It's yours. Same principle can be applied here. Don't share it just simply because the person that shared it first is somebody you like. Be willing to do the research. Number 8, everybody sees it. Had a person come up to me and say, well, I got an issue with what you said. Oh, get in line. I got an issue with what you said. I said, okay, what was the problem? You said everybody sees it. Well, that's not true. You can block it. You can block people from seeing your post. You can make it where only your friends see that post. I said, you're right. You're absolutely right. I said, so you're going to change that? Nope. Well, why not? I just showed you that you're wrong. No, you didn't really. Because here's what happens. When you post something, even if you post it to just like 7 people, if one of those 7 shares it, you can forget about having it blocked from everybody else. Well, I can make it where they can't share it. All they have to do is type in exactly what you wrote and give you credit. And they've shared it. His eyes got about this big. And I could just see the wheels turning, the little hamster turning the wheel in his brain. I was like, oh no, there's some stuff I've shared with my friends on Facebook and I thought was funny, and oh boy, if they shared that, oh boy. Yeah, everybody sees it. And ultimately, I know this is going to sound a little bit cliche, but you got to understand this is very true. Ultimately, you can't block Jesus. There's not a thought you've had or an action you've done or a word you've stated that Jesus doesn't know about. And that's not in the boogeyman sort of idea here where Jesus is waiting and watching to pop you when you do something wrong. That's not who he is. But there is a certain group of people, myself included, who at some point in our life we probably thought, well, nobody else knows about this. I can say this or I can do this and nobody else will know about it. Well, the truth is, yeah, they do. And ultimately, I don't care if you know about it. I don't mean that offensively. Don't take that the wrong way. I don't really care if you find out about it. I do care big time if he does. There's some things that I've probably posted that I would probably, if I went back in time to when I was 21, 22, I probably shouldn't have said. But ultimately, if you read those today, I could just laugh them off and say, it's immaturity. It's immaturity. I was just being silly, just being goofy. And it might change your perception about me, it might not, I don't know. But I do know this. If I'm putting things out there, or if I'm saying things and doing things that I know are inappropriate and wrong, and I'm not repenting of them, I'm not changing my ways, I'm continuing in those things, then truthfully, you might believe me to be the greatest person of all time, but I'm still going to be lost. I'm still going to be lost because ultimately I can't hide things from him. He knows. I hope these things help you. I really do. Because social media is not evil. Technology is not evil. From time to time, we've got to be reminded how to use it appropriately. And from time to time, we have to look in the mirror and see some of these things that we're faced with. Thank you for your attention this morning.